Anika.
What's going
Hello
on,
to you.
Michael
Happy
Johnson?
Monday.
I know. Happy Monday. It's
Oh
cold over
man.
here. It's cold.
Oh, is
I'm
it?
so mad.
What's the
Oh
temperature?
yeah.
What's the temperature over
It's like
there?
37, 38, cloudy.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh,
What
we
about for
caught a
you?
good one. Are you serious? Wow. Yeah, we caught a good one today. Today we were in the 60s. This actually, it is really, 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 really nice out here in
Nah,
DC.
you didn't
Little
have to emphasize
breezy,
it like
but it's
that.
it's still good.
You didn't have to emphasize it. It's really, 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 really. You just,
Yeah, it's really nice over here. It's
that's
really
good.
nice over here. Listen, I'm not gonna belabor the point. You and I have been talking about a lot of things, and I want to do
Mhm.
something real quick because I remember a guy came on. This was like maybe like 2-3 weeks ago in the comments, and he had
Mhm.
made a comment. He said that I think I was patronizing women or something like that,
Pandering.
and I kind of had to say something.
The
Hmm.
pandering guy, the guy that said you were pandering or
Oh,
patronizing, you were
pandering. He said I was pandering.
yeah.
I said I was pandering. I was pandering.
Right.
That's what it was, right? And I
Mhm.
was like, I'm not pandering. I happen to love black women. I have a wife. I have 3 daughters. I have a co-host who's a woman. My mother's a
Mhm.
woman. So all these different people in my life, I want to make sure that I honor them. And so some of these podcasts are going to do just that. And tonight is really, 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 really going to do that for a number of different reasons. And I really wanted to do this podcast and do it with you. And I got a lot of questions for you, and if my wife are on or my daughters are on, I'd have a lot of questions for them as well. But since it's just you and I have a lot of questions for you regarding women. So on tonight, Anika, well, let me just start it this way. So the
Mhm.
Oscars were on what, last week, I believe it was.
It was a couple of weeks, maybe.
I think the Oscars was on last week. Yeah,
Yes.
maybe
Okay.
2 weeks ago. But in
Mhm.
any event, the Oscars were great. Shout out to Michael B. Jordan. Shout out to the cast of Sinners. Absolutely fantastic
Oh my
cast.
god.
Fantastic movie. The acting was incredible. Shout out to
Yeah.
all of them, directors, the cinematography folks, everybody who was involved. Shout out to all you guys. Did a fantastic job. After the Oscars, though, there was a small, I don't even know if it was small, if we could call it small, but there was an issue.
Yeah.
Teyana Taylor. This young lady is probably one of the most gifted and talented young ladies out there today. She's,
Yes, she is.
she can sing, dance, act. I mean, what can't she do, right? But she was sitting in the audience, or I guess she was on stage, came off stage to go to bring someone up on stage with her. And as she was, I think, going back up or leaving or something to that magnitude, one of the security guys shoved her,
Okay.
and it was caught all over social media. I don't know. Did you see that, by the way?
Yes, I did. It was disturbing. Yes.
Yeah, it was very disturbing. And the thing that was, I didn't see if it was a black person or a white person, a green person, orange, Martian, American, whatever. I didn't see who it
Right.
was, but it was just
Mhm.
disturbing that this man felt like he could push her. Now, to put it all into its proper context, there were other women. There were probably about 10 other women around, but he didn't push any of the other women. He pushed her. And so social media erupted. The Oscars had to get into, the securities guys' butt, get into the security company's butt about the whole incident about shoving her. And I just got to thinking to myself, why would this guy shove this woman? He could have shoved any one of these other women, right? Which there was only one other black woman in the crowd, but there was, her and then some other folks there. But why did he push her? And then I
Right.
thought back because I remember this happening, not the similar exact same thing, but this happened to Kelly Rowland as
Yeah.
she was going up some stairs into an event as well. And it was happened to be a white woman who was trying to shoo her or push her along, but she
Mhm.
didn't do it to some of the white guests. She did it to Kelly Rowland. And Kelly Rowland, shout out, first of all, shout out to that beautiful black woman of Destiny's
Yes.
Child.
It was,
She
yeah.
did not mess around. She literally put that chick in her place on the spot. She
Yes,
had
she
her
did.
finger all up in her face, and I was rooting for her. I was
There you
like,
go.
go ahead, Kelly, do your thing. And I just got me to thinking, what is going on? And I've heard this said by black women that they feel unprotected. And it got me thinking, I was like, man, this is a shame that black women feel unprotected. So on tonight's show, we're doing, what does protecting black women look like? That's the title of the show on tonight. And I really want to get into this, Nika, because as a man, especially as a Black man with, again, all these women in my life, my dog is a girl, my granddaughter, my daughters, my wife, you, my mother, aunts, grandmothers, all of these different women who belong, who are in my space and my tribe. I definitely want to protect them. I don't always know what to do to protect them, right? Because they're different environments. So in that particular environment, I know exactly what to do because it's a physical altercation. But what happens when you're at work and you have a workplace altercation? What happens a lot of times in relationships, women say they don't feel protected, I guess, emotionally protected on some other different space and places. And so on tonight, Anika, I really want to talk to you about what do you think needs to be done, number one, and number two, what can we do as Black men, especially, to protect our Black women, and what can we do? This is the kicker. What can Black women do to help us make it easier to protect them? And here's what I mean by that. I was telling my wife, and I've said this to her at least 2 times, when we're driving and you get a little upset because somebody's cut you off, I don't want you honking the horn. I don't want you acting erratic, because road rage is real, right? And if you do that, and if somebody does something to confront you, they aren't necessarily confronting you. They're confronting me, because now I'm the man. They're probably not going to do much to you or say much to you. They're going to probably say it to me. In certain instances, Black men have lost their lives trying to protect their women because the woman did something that innocently put that Black man in danger. And so I've told my wife and my kids, don't put me in unnecessary danger. If something happens or it arises because we're in a situation, is one thing. Don't start something that will put me in a situation that will endanger me, but not only endanger me, endanger you, or put me in a position, Anika, because this is how I feel, and this is not everybody else, this is me speaking, with all the stuff that I got going on, I will kill somebody to protect what I believe is important to me. So don't put me in that position where now I feel like my life is threatened, and because my life is threatened, I'm going to remove the threat. And so, I just want to put that out there, but I want to know from you, to talk to you about all these different spaces and places, about where you don't feel protected and why don't Black women feel protected, and who you believe should be or should have that responsibility, or the onus is on who to do that. So it's all of those different things. You can start wherever you want, and I have a ton of questions.
I'm going to tell you, when you brought this topic up, one, I want to say thank you for, thinking about such a topic, because it's such an important topic. And when I saw Teyana Taylor, you see so many different women being abused by just people, because again, people, well, if we look at the historical component of Black women being mistreated, it's a historical component of it, slavery, right? The abuse, Black men weren't able to protect their wives because they weren't in the same space. We were seen as property. And I think people kind of hold on to that outlook of Black women. We're property. We don't have feelings. We don't have emotions. We just are not necessarily, in some cases, seen as human or having any feelings. So I really look at it from a historical component too. I think I always like to look at things from, where did they start? Where did this mindset start that Black women are not protected and they can just be abused and no one necessarily cares about it? So I look at it from that standpoint, like, where did it all start? I'm always looking at that, like, where did it all start? And when historically, slavery, Black women were not protected. Black women were abused in many different ways. And so we were seen as property. And I think some people just look at us as property. They don't look at us as having feelings and emotions and, do whatever. And okay, they'll get over it kind of thing. So I look at it from that perspective. I kind of start there. Can you hear me?
Okay. And so that being the case, like, can you explain, like, again, if you want to start with the physical, I get it. Or if you want to start with the emotional within an intimate relationship at work, in these other places and spaces, because as a Black man, I'm not familiar with all the places where you make women, because you're here with me, women don't feel protected. I understand if you're out on a date, you're walking down the street, somebody, accosts you. I get that. If you're at work, you get into something with another man, and you guys are going back and forth, and you feel like, hey, wait a minute, this is just kind of gone out of whatever. But there are other places and spaces that I'm not necessarily aware of. I know in an intimate relationship, there could be some issue there as well. So just these different places and spaces that will be helpful to not just Black men, but to other men understand, hey, we're looking for your assistance. We're looking for your help, because while we can do some things, these are some things where we just feel very vulnerable, and we aren't equipped to actually deal with them. We need your help.
It's in a lot of spaces, Michael. I think even in the healthcare, women not being believed, they have illnesses. It's in the healthcare system. When women go missing, we're not. So it's so many different arenas, but I want to understand where you want to go. You want to understand from a Black man's perspective, like how can you protect us more?
But just a male perspective. Yeah, just a male perspective, just in general. I mean, as a Black man, of course, I feel like, we should have some responsibility there. But in terms of just being a man, how can we help protect you all in these different arenas, these different spaces? Because we don't always know where you need protecting at, right? Yeah. Some of them, again, are obvious to us, because if it's a physical confrontation, that's easy enough to identify, right? But there are so many other places that I've just been reading about where women just feel vulnerable.
Yeah, I just don't think it's nothing that you guys can do as a whole. Yes, I mean, you can stand up like what we're doing now. We can bring attention to it. But there's so many, there's so many spaces, whether it's the healthcare, the legal system, us going missing. Really, all we can.
Well, let's talk about that's good. No, all of those are great. Start with any one of those areas right there.
Let's think about the healthcare system. When Black women are sometimes they think we over exaggerate things, so they dismiss our pain. They say women are 3 times more likely to die at giving being childbirth, because our woes and complaints are not necessarily considered. So it's in the healthcare field. Think about when a Black woman goes missing versus a white woman goes missing. We are not, I mean, they don't send the cavalry out real quickly. It's a delayed response to it. So we need, when these things happen, we need, like, for instance, let's say, your daughter, your wife, when she was, let's say they're not feeling well, and they go to the doctor, and the doctor dismiss their aches and pains. A lot of times, if you're there with her, you got to advocate for her. Sometimes we need advocates. We shouldn't need that. Our voice should be enough. But sometimes, I don't know if you've seen, there was a lady, she was in this waiting room. She was giving birth. She was about to give birth or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I saw this.
And she was the aide or assistant or the nurse was asking her all these questions. She was yelling and screaming because the baby was crowning. Yep. And I guess she had her mother or somebody with her. I mean, this lady was screaming at the top of her lungs, and she's trying to do this intake. Again, both 2 ladies there the lady that was doing the intake did not listen to her. So if you're in that space and you see something happening, we don't want you to fight for us. We don't want you to, put yourself in harm's way. I don't want my husband to do that. I'm not going to put myself in a situation like you just said. You don't want your wife and your daughters to do something where you're going to have to fight. And that's not necessarily what we want. We want, if we're in a space, I remember, and I wish my husband had been here at this time. I was driving down the street. This person almost cut me off, Michael. And he was a non-Black person. And I had to stop immediately because I almost hit his BMW, right? He got out. He called me a black, fat monkey NB. All those things. My daughter was in the car. And I'm like, boy. I was looking around. I was hoping that another brother was around, because I think if another brother was around and saw that man, that non-Black man, say that to me, if my husband was around, it would have been bad. But me and my daughter, we were both in the car, and I just paused, and I'm like, but he felt bold enough So if you see something like that happening, men, we're not saying get out and fight, but he said the words out loud. And it was so disturbing. In that moment, I wanted to protect her. I wanted someone, I mean, it makes me even choked up because it was so unnecessary. He ran a stop sign and I had to stop. So thank God I'm a defensive driver. But like those situations, if you're around and you see something happening and our lives are being threatened, we don't want you to fight, but just stand up for us. And don't be the one to abuse us, right? Don't be the one to do to mentally manipulate us. If we're saying things or you're overreacting, you're doing too much, and sometimes we can, but sometimes we get to the point where we're doing too much because we want to be heard and we don't feel like we're being heard, Michael. So there's so many instances where you guys can stand up for us, where other people are not. Look in those areas where we're not, being advocated for, and stand up for us, whether it's in the workplace, whether, with your daughters in the legal system, the hospitals. There's so many areas where we're not protected. I mean, I can go on and on about it, Michael.
Please, I want you to, and also too, by the way, it's not just, I don't think it's, and I say this because I'm on with you because I want to understand this more, but I don't think it's just, the onus is just on men. I think it's other women too. Like, I think in general, as a society, we need to protect you all. So when I think about, for example, I'm looking at Jasmine Crockett, right, down in Texas, and I see how the system, the political system, the political machine, it appears as though it's moved against her in such a violent way, right? In a very forceful and a muscular way. I say that because before she actually threw her hat in the ring and had to really almost defend her seat, she was fine. Her going up against Trump, the Democrats were all for her, helped her, was standing behind her, go girl, go do this, Even the media, I watched some of the media, and I really want to say this because and this is one of the reasons too I want to jump on here, because I noticed the Midas Network, which is a pretty big network now.
Yeah,
they do a great job, but I see some things that I do not like about them, and I see where they did not defend Jasmine Crockett. They didn't come to her defense. Now, I'm not saying all of what she did was right, but there were some things that were done to her that they did not call out in her favor. I mean, this whole thing was shutting down the polls. They mentioned it, but they glared right over it. They kind of went right past it. They spent 10 seconds on it and didn't talk about how the polls was shut down and how she could have lost, how many ever votes it was, the manipulation of, the votes, all of the different things that were used against her. They didn't talk about that. And I noticed that, for her opponent, they actually kind of helped him in that place. So I couldn't tell what was going on. To me, they may have inadvertently helped her. I don't know if they did or didn't. They may have done it on purpose, not sure. But I saw that and I said, that's an instance right there where I know we should have done more to protect her. Although there were some missteps by her, there were some things done to her and against her that weren't right. It's saying Congress. When I look at some of the other Black women in Congress, we just saw, I think Representative Summers had this thing with Comer, who is he's the leader of one of these chairs. He's the chair of one of these committees. I forget which committee it is, but he told her to stop bitching. Now, I don't think he would have said that to a Black man or even a white man, but he told her to stop bitching. I know if it were me, he couldn't have told me to stop bitching because it would have been a problem. Like, I would have been in his ass. Right then and there, right? But it's these microaggressions, that we see. But again, we see, women doing this to other women as well. So I just know against Black women, I'm seeing these different things, and it makes me uncomfortable as a Black man, as a Black father, as a Black husband, Black uncle, all these different areas of my life. It makes me uncomfortable. And I know if I'm seeing these things, well, what are the other things I'm not seeing? So I'm just wondering in general now, not just as a Black man, but as a man, as a person, as a human being, how can we protect Black women? Because we see Black women attacked every day. You said it, and it's true. We see Black young girls go missing, and the cavalry not moving like that. But let a little white girl go missing. That little white girl, Bonet, something. Remember, like back in the 80s or whatever it was, she went missing. They looked for that little girl for like 50 years.
They did.
They're probably still looking for her right now.
And they know, and I'm sure that they know what happened to her.
Oh, they know exactly what happened.
Like let's pretend.
Yeah. They know. I mean, we see little black girls abducted, abused every single day. And again, I'm not pandering. This is just me concerned as a black person, as a black man, as a human being, right? It's concerning to me to see this level of attack against black women. Now, let me just say let me put some things in perspective here. I've seen where some black women put themselves in danger. And I say that to say, because I don't know that you all realize sometimes that you do that, especially, when it comes to what I was saying to you. My wife and I were in this car and I'm like, listen, don't be laying on a horn, looking at these people. I know in Texas, for example, you should not do that. Everybody in Texas, for the most part, has a gun, or you should in your mind expect that everybody has a gun. And some people are just crazy. Road rage is real. They will shoot you for honking on a horn, for yelling, doing all this. And the thing that's crazy about that is, I always tell my wife this, you don't have to do that. It's not a whole big deal. If they cut you off, so what? Let them go. It's not a big deal. Well, they shouldn't have cut, whatever. It's not that big deal. It's not that important. Your life should not be put at risk because you were laying on a horn or whatever the case is. It's unfortunate. We got to take that position, but you do. You must, because you just don't know. So I want women to be, a little bit more careful in that sense. And that's just one area. There's so many other areas, but just being careful in general. But again, I wanted to hear from you to help us understand how black women feel. And again, what can society do? Not just me as a man, but what can society do? Identify these different areas. And again, talk about why and how it makes you feel in those instances.
Yeah, I just think it's just awareness too, Michael. Like I said, with you bringing this, to the forefront and having the conversation, I think just having, just expanding our reach and having more conversations like this, not just here, but just, just in general, and asking each woman how they feel. I know for some women, either we are, because we want to be accepted and respected, either we are overly giving and caring, or we're very aggressive, right? On one end, we're overly kind and giving because we want people to accept us and be nice to us. Then on the other end, we can be super aggressive because we don't want anybody to take advantage of us. So there has to be a healthy medium. When people say, black women are always yelling and screaming, I say a lot of times that's a function of we're trying to protect ourselves. And we feel like that's the only way. That's just like when you are disciplining your kids. You can start off with the volume really low, like, okay, John, I need you to do this. He doesn't do it. Okay, John, I need you to do this. Okay, then you get louder and louder. And I think sometimes, I don't think black women start off yelling and screaming, but when we don't think we're being heard, just hear us, right? Hear us when we start talking the first time. And I think that's one thing that everybody can do. I think everyone deserves to be heard, right? And not cut off and listened to, and because we feel like what we have to say is not important. And so I would say start there. Just start listening to us. And again, I know we don't always approach things the right way, but I don't feel like most black women start out the gate throwing hands and flipping tables and stuff like that. I think it gets to that point when we've been constantly trying to express something and we're not being heard. We're not being understood. We want to be understood. That's the one thing a black woman doesn't want to be, misunderstood. We want to be understood. So which means you have to actively listen to us. And I mean, literally actively listen to us. That's like one of the best gifts you can give a black woman, just any woman. Just listen. Just listen. I mean, I get that sometimes we're not using, our words and our language, in a way that's respectful. But I think for the most part, I feel like most black women, some black women, we start off, with the low volume. And then when we're not heard and respected, the volume goes up and everybody, oh, I'm afraid. Like, so like now it's like you didn't kind of stir the pot. You didn't woke the bear. And now you want to be up in arms like, oh, why are you yelling? Why are you so upset? you should have saw it coming. You should have been paying attention. So just
Yeah,
listen to us.
man, that's a great point you make. And to that point, I guess talking about being an active listener, right? It's I don't know. That could be challenging, right? I think somebody has to be taught how to be an active listener. I don't think all of us come with that button or that function built in, right? Actively listen to somebody to hear them as opposed to preparing what your rebuttal is going to be. Because most of us we listen with a prepared rebuttal, right?
Ooh, say that
If they're
again.
going to say this, I'm going to say this. If they go this way, I'm going this way. I'm cutting them off I'm figuring every angle out to cut them off to make sure that, hey, while you're trying to be heard, I'm also going to be heard. And maybe my point will be made a little bit louder than your point, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. It does. But I get that sometimes we don't send messages properly. We can come in judging and that kind of thing. But when we come in the right way, like you say, we listen to reply as opposed to listening to understand. And like I said, that's the greatest gift you can give any person. Just listen to understand what I'm saying so we don't have to continue to repeat the same thing. And I think, a lot of times you got women being, gaslit and, and it's just not, it's uncomfortable for women because we're emotional beings, right? And so, we want what we give, we want in return. And we know we can't always get it exactly how we give it. And so I don't expect my husband to give me in terms of what I give. I don't expect him to duplicate exactly because he's a man and I'm a woman. So I have to accept like this is how he gives it and this is how he expresses love. And granted that if I say this is how I need it, you can make some adjustments to kind of get there as close as possible. But just the effort, we like to see the effort. We don't expect perfection.
So, because I think we're talking about now, we kind of shifted and moved to the intimate space, right? The space of a relationship, an intimate relationship. And this is good because I know for a fact most men feel like, I don't say most men, but probably a lot of men feel like women do expect us to know exactly what to do, what to say, and to how to feel towards them. And that's not the case. Like, I don't know why women or where that perception came from, but it's simply and merely that. It's a perception. We don't read minds, right? It's really unfair actually to say or think a man should know when he's never been told, right? Like and I know this has to do with active listening and I get all of that, but still you have to be told sometimes, oh, I didn't know you didn't like that. I thought you liked it. I'll give you an example. This is one of the best examples I've ever seen in my life in an internal space. This guy was saying him and his girlfriend argued for years about sandwiches. So the guy would make the sandwich for his wife and he would take the edges off the bread, right? And so the wife hated that. She was like, one day she just blew up. She was like, I hate when you do that. Why do you always take the edges off the bread? Who eats bread like that? This is not how you eat a sandwich. And the man, it was crazy. The man literally kind of broke down and she asked him, why do you do that? You know what he said to her? What? He said, I take that off because the bread without the edges on it is my favorite part. So I want to give you the best part of me, which is the reason why I take the edges off the bread, not to spark an argument or to cause you to be upset. But I thought I was doing something that was affectionate, that was loving, because I was giving you the best part of me by taking off the edges.
For her sandwich.
For her sandwich. Because he was making it for her.
For her sandwich. Okay.
For her sandwich. Because, because what it was is he was literally making a sandwich for her, right? It was like a love language for him. He was like, I want to do something special for her. I don't want her to have to cook. She's hungry. Let me take the initiative to go make this for her, but let me make it for her like I like mine. I know this is special to me. I know if somebody were to do it for me, I'd want it done like this, and I want to give her the best part. So let me also take the edges off for her and give it to her. While it's a small thing, it was a big thing because it hurt his feelings tremendously to have her go off like that and thinking she should know, or rather he should know that she likes the edges when she's never said to him before? It's an easy thing. You know what? Please do me a favor. I love your sandwiches, but could you do me a favor? Could you just leave the edges on? Because I really do like the edges. As opposed to just going off like it was some mean or spiteful thing that was happening. It's a small thing, right?
Yes.
But you understand what I'm saying, how big and how this thing could just blow up, just thinking he should know better. Real quick, I want to invite everybody to jump in the comments. See, my sister jumped in. Hey, baby, Kiki Johnson. She says, I believe most women speak through actions before it may be voiced. At times, the loudest voice comes from the unheard voice over time.
That's true, Kiki.
So I wish I had her here to explain that more, because as a man, I'm looking at this, I read it, I heard it, I see it, but I don't quite understand that. So could you break that down? I'll read it once more. It says, I believe most women speak through their actions. I'm starting to wonder which actions before it may be voiced. At times, the loudest voice comes from the unheard voice over time. So Kiki, baby, if you would, you can explain that, help your brother out here. As a man, help me out over here.
I think Kiki is saying, and that is a very true statement. I think women, we move in a way to show you what we like and what we don't like, right? So we're hoping that if you're paying attention enough, that you'll see what I like and what I don't like. And I don't necessarily always have to be vocal about what I like and don't like.
That's an assumption. That's a huge assumption, by the way.
Well, if you're paying attention to certain things, you should know. I think certain things, if you're paying attention, you should know. I mean, it could be a function of, well, I can't even give an example, but there's certain things if you should pick up on. You should just pick up on. Like, again, my husband likes schedules, right? So he likes to know where everybody is. We have a schedule, right? So he models, what he does is he sends me his schedule. This is what I got going on for the week. This is what I got going on for the week. So that says to me, he's sharing his schedule with me. That means I need to share my schedule with him, right? Because he's sharing his schedule. So let's say I didn't catch that. Now what Kiki is saying, now I got to voice it. Now that I voiced it, so you didn't catch the hints. Now I'm going to voice it to you. Now I voiced it to you and you're still not doing it. And so we turn up the volume, like I was saying earlier. Is that what you mean, Kiki?
That sounds like that's probably what it is. But so question for you. How many times do you have to say it before, you turn up the volume, if you will? So if you're saying, I'm assuming like maybe after 2 or 3 times, not after 1 time, right? I'm assuming this.
How important it is to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get some context here, because for a man, sometimes we can miss it. My wife was talking to me earlier today and I was looking at something and I know she probably was disturbed because she was like, did you not hear me? And I was like, no, what did you say? And it wasn't because I was trying to ignore her. It was, I had my own set of thoughts going on, right? Like I'm thinking, and sometimes this is what I want women to know. Sometimes men aren't ignoring you. This is that we're thinking about other things that might be going on. Some of the things, like for instance, I think at the moment I was thinking about, okay, next week I got some major stuff coming up and I got to do this, and this, but I have to pre-plan that stuff. So in order for those things to happen, I got to start them this week so that they get, that they take place next week. So I got a couple of things I got to do to make sure everything goes the way it needs to go. And in my mind, I got this mental checklist and I'm running through this mental checklist and I'm thinking, did I get everything? I don't think I did, right? And now I'm saying to myself, oh, shoot, I think I missed this, or this. So what do I need to do to fix this or correct this? So it wasn't that I wasn't paying attention to her, which I know in her mind, she felt like that. I was lost in my own thought, right? Or my own thoughts, rather. Because ultimately, if I don't get these things done, okay, we got a mortgage to pay. I got a car note to pay. I got to take care of this. I got to do that. I got all these other things I got to do. So, did I do all of these other things? And so in my mind, I'm kind of, and I feel like, and I got to tell her when I get home, I'm going to apologize to her and say, hey, I wasn't ignoring you. I have these other things going on in my mind as well.
Right.
I got a lot of stuff going on. I got some balls in the air and I'm saying to myself, if one of these balls falls out of the air, it's going to impact my household. So let me not let this ball fall out of the air.
So I think in a situation like that, so that she doesn't feel like, I think with anybody, so they don't feel like they're not being heard, I always encourage people to ask before you start saying and talking and sending messages, do you got time? You got a minute? Do I got your undivided attention? You got a minute, because again, sometimes you're just not in a headspace to risk, because like you said, you got other things kind of going, and it's just like, ask the question, you got a minute. If it's important to you and you want to be heard, you definitely ask the question, hey, you got a minute to talk? I gotta, can I have your undivided attention?
Yeah, and that's good too, because I don't think people do that, right? I think they skip over that part and get upset. Like, you won't listen to me, as opposed to saying, or giving me the benefit of the doubt. In this instance, I'm using myself, for example. Give me the benefit of the doubt that maybe something else is going on in my mind or in their mind, and ask them, hey, you got a minute for us to chat? Like you said, or is everything okay? Or can we talk for a minute? Yeah. There's nothing wrong with asking those questions, because then you have my full attention, right? I know if my wife says Mike, and if I'm not paying attention, but I can hear her clearly when she says Michael, right? I clearly, and my mother too, and anybody else for the most part, because I'm like, Mike is casual. Mike is, hey, blah, 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 blah. But if I hear Michael, I'm like, ooh. That's like a trust signal, right? So I can hear that quite. And that's almost, yeah, I do. I really do. It's almost like saying, can we talk? Like, because I know if you're calling my full name, my full attention is needed. Like, I really need to stop what I'm doing and figure out what's going on, because something isn't right. Something might be off. Let me just real quick. Kiki said, yeah, pretty much that was it. And she said it depends on the audience.
I agree with that, because if you're at work, work setting, different settings with your kids, that makes sense. Yeah. That's good though. But I think the best thing, like I said, you guys can do for us, and I want to, would Kiki agree with this, is to hear us, to listen to us. And I know if I have something important to say, I ask my husband, hey, you got a minute? A lot of times when men hear you got a minute, like, oh, what's wrong? So, ain't nothing wrong.
Because you probably don't do it that often.
If your wife says, Mike, we need to talk.
Yeah. It depends. I listen, I listen for a tone, right? So if the tone if it's a low tone, I know something's off. If she says, oh, Mike, can we talk? Again, that's an easy thing. That's not like it's not like a distress or like something's happened or something is happening. I think in return, she can tell that from me as well. If my tone is more upbeat than it is lower, then I think she could tell something she could tell something is wrong. Especially if I say, can I talk to you? That's sometimes, that's like, oof, wait a minute.
Yeah. So I think, like I said, the most important thing is, Michael, we can just really kind of put this in a nutshell. Women want to be heard. We don't want to be misunderstood. We don't want to be told we're overreacting in any setting. You're aggressive. You're upset. In the workspace. Black women talk differently than non-Black women. We do. We have a lot of more passion in what we say. It doesn't mean we upset. So don't accuse us of being some way. Don't label us something. If you feel like you're threatened or you're being disrespected, and we need to kind of bring it back a little bit, say, hey, I don't like your tone. I feel disrespect. Now, again, we want to know that we're disrespecting somebody. We don't want to I don't want to disrespect nobody, but I don't feel like we always gotta shape and model like how we say things to people. And it's just like, don't say we're overreacting. Because we're passionate about. Don't say we're yelling because the volume of our voice just went up a little bit. So protecting us in that way, allowing us to have a voice and not silence us. Because what ends up happening is, if we always have to, shape and form, who we are with different audiences, so then I get we gotta, what they call it, code switching. I get that we have to be a certain way in certain settings. I think like what Kiki is saying, but I feel like, don't try to change us so much. If we're not hurting anybody, it's our personality, us, let us be who we are. Let us be who we are. But again, if we're still open to correction, though, there's correction that needs to take place. Correction is definitely, I'm open to it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Then she said, Mike, you know the look on Stephanie's face before she says anything. I pretty much do. I try to pay attention. And I don't even know if it's so much that. I think it's the other way around. I think it's me probably paying probably a little bit more attention when she's trying to get my attention. If I'm lost in my thoughts, I just know how I am.
Right.
When my mind is stuck on something, it's stuck on it until I can get it resolved. And until it's resolved, I almost can't move. I'm almost in a state of paralysis.
Okay.
Until I can get it fixed, because I'm so goal oriented. And I know my wife knows this about me. Like, I'm not gonna move on something until I feel like I've achieved the goal or it's done. And that's pretty much it, anything. And I try to be mindful of that, even with my kids or my granddaughter, just in general, people in general, to be mindful about being that way. But sometimes, it's overwhelming. It's like it's stuck. Oh, I'm stuck rather, and I need to just kind of move past it.
Yeah.
Again, in that we talked about in that workspace, and we talked about in that intimate space. Is there any other other places that you could think? I know it's a whole lot of other ones. Something that comes to mind that we can take a look at, so we're aware that we need to be protecting you guys. And this is just in general, and protecting one another, because other Black women, I see it happen. Sometimes I don't see it happen all the time, but I see it happening sometimes. Again, this Jasmine Crockett thing, I've seen women come to her defense, and I've seen other women attack her. When we talk about women in entertainment, you see the same thing, women on women or whatever the case is. And it's crazy because we don't protect one another. And another show we're going to talk about protecting Black men, because at the same time, there's a problem there as well, where Black men are not protected. We feel like we're hunted. Right? Yeah. You feel like you're abused. We feel like we're hunted. You just turn on the news on any given day, and you can see a Black man was killed because he walked across the street. A Black man was killed because he was driving his car. A Black man was killed because he looked at somebody. All of these different things. And so, what do we need to do to protect one another? But on tonight, we're talking about protecting Black women.
Yeah, I would say also, I would agree with you, Michael. We definitely need to protect our Black men too. But just ask us questions and pay attention, because sometimes women go silent because when we talk to people and we're not believed, or we're saying we're exaggerating or we're too dramatic, we start to shut down because people are judging us too much. So try not to be so judgmental. And if you do see us kind of, out of pocket, if you will, or just kind of moving differently, ask questions, like pull us over to the side, and don't put us out. What's the word I'm looking for? Pull us to the side and don't say it around a group of people, right? If there's something that we're doing that you don't like, pull us to the side. Maybe we're aware of it. And again, women, we have to be accountable for ourselves too. I'm not saying that men and others should be accountable, always gotta adjust themselves for us. However, I feel like if you just see, how a particular woman in your life moves, and she's moving a little differently, ask the question, because sometimes we go silent because it's just sometimes it's a battle. It's a battle to be heard, and I ain't mean it like that, or people get defensive and you can't. So it's just like we go silent. So I would say pay attention and ask questions. And because you need to open up the space and say it's safe. It's safe to express yourself. It's safe to have the hard conversations, because sometimes we don't feel like we have a safe space to land when it comes to really sharing things, because people get so defensive. And I think people have to know that for themselves, that what, I can be a little defensive. So I'm about to tell Fred, I'm like, listen, sometimes I'm going to say some things to you, and and you may not like what I have to say, and I just need you to not be defensive about it. And sometimes people don't realize they're being defensive, because most men like to be fixers. They don't like to think that they make mistakes. Is it hard sometimes, Michael? Would you say, because you guys, you guys are providers, you want to take your family men, but you're not perfect men. So when you mess up, whatever, you didn't say something wrong, or you didn't said it the wrong way, or whatever you made a good man will do, because good men still make mistakes, right?
Absolutely.
So is it hard for for your wife especially, to say, you know what, Michael, I didn't like when you said that or did that? Is it hard for you to receive that?
No, I mean, I don't think so. Let me just real quick. Jermaine, hey man, how you doing? Jermaine says, good evening, Mike and Miss Owens, blessings. And then my sister says, definitely that safe space is hard to find. I don't think so, Nika. Like, and I'm not perfect by any stretch, but you and I recently, maybe like a month or so ago, we had something that we needed to take care of. And I'll just ask you, how did you feel? I mean, like, how did you feel when you brought it to me? What was, I'll ask you to answer the question based on that. So ask your question again and then answer the question for us.
Okay. And Jermaine, please call me Nika. Don't, you don't have to call me Miss Owens. We're not formal here. So basically, creating safe spaces for women to express themselves. And because we worked together, and I feel like we worked well together, I had to bring it, and I had to really, in my head, I'm always processing how to say something to someone, because I don't want to offend anybody. Again, as a Black woman, it's easy for people to get offended because of, the stereotypes of a Black woman, right? So it's just my personality too. I want to make sure I don't offend anybody. And so I didn't know you from the standpoint of, okay, I got to bring this to Michael's attention. And so how is he going to respond to that? Say, this will determine if we can really work together. Because I think in a working relationship, you got to be able to talk to each other. Working relationship, personal, professional, you got to be able to work with each other. And when I brought it to your attention, there was no defensiveness. There was no, not taking responsibility. You said, oh my gosh, that I was doing that. And whatever you said, you created a safe space for me to say what you protected. Like I said, it was protection. You protected what I had to say to you, and you didn't look at it as trash. Like, well, that's your perception. Get over it. It was, no, I don't want you to feel that way, and we'll correct that. And I don't know if you want to express what it was. You want me to express what it was?
It's up to you. I mean, I want you, because listen, I don't want to taint anything, and I'm not a perfect person. And so that was the first kind of interaction. We had come to this crossroad, and I didn't know that you were feeling like, okay, this is going to determine how far we can go or how far we can't go. See, I didn't know that part until you just said it.
Only because if you had here it is, ladies and gentlemen, that was our first time having a guest on, and you and the guest, you guys were over talking. And I felt like I didn't get a word in. And it was like this dissertation from the both of you a little bit. And I'm like, and I was being cut off. And I'm like, man, I don't like the way that feels. I said, we're going to have people on. I want to make it where, and you went on, when I told you, you said, so we need to problem solve. We need to figure out when that happens. Because when you get into a conversation, you're just going. We all are going. We're excited about the conversation. But you were so welcoming of what I had to say. And so again, and I didn't think you would be defensive because you don't come off as that way. So I kind of knew it was going to be, but there's always that chance that when someone when you have to bring something to someone's attention, they could, flip it, but you did not. It was very comfortable, and not only that, Michael, it was corrected. I said it was corrected. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to make sure that you knew that. And I'm be honest with you, I learned that from my wife and of course my daughters. Like, I've learned to not be defensive, and I'll tell you why. Because my daughters are so my wife less than my daughters so much. So my daughters, they don't have a cut card, if you will. Like, they'll tell me they don't have a cut card, like meaning they don't have a filter. They'll just say what they have. Daddy, I don't like this. Like, I don't like this. I don't like this. And at a point, I got to make sure I'm not in my feelings because they are so so very direct. Mm-hmm. And I had to tell them, no, I was like, listen, I'm your dad, so you could be this direct with me. But when you're dealing with your spouse or boyfriend or whatever, you got to tone that down. right?
Mm.
Because I know how it sounds to me. I'm okay with it because it's been years. Because I've taught my kids, I want you to express yourself. I don't want you to feel like you have to, cower down or be less than, or whatever the case is. I don't want you to feel that way. But it's been times my daughter said something to me. I was like, I would never say that to my daughters. Like, I would never say, I don't like this. Did it. My sister said, no, they do not. I think that's genetic. That could be genetic. That could be it. But I think most men, with their daughters, you kind of learn that. So I've learned, okay, in that, let me just be careful and let me temper my responses when they come to women. Especially my wife, for sure. My wife isn't like them. They will tell me, I mean, she'll tell me too in a very nice way. My daughters, they like, they'll just give it to me. Yeah,
But you
I'm
said they
like,
got to tone it down for other people. Why do they got to tone it down for other people, though, Michael?
Because I don't want somebody to mistake it. So I know people's feelings could be fragile, right? And sometimes a filter is needed, not the message. It's not the message, it's the filter, how you deliver the message, right? I'm your dad, so I get it. You're going to tell me, because I've taught them in our relationship, right? Our one-on-ones or our group relationships. You can talk to me like that. Of course, I'm your father, right? But somebody else, you got to work with them for a while, understand that person's personality, their temperance. How you deal with somebody else is different. But to be that straightforward, like my daughters, I don't want to get into it. My daughters are straightforward. They will tell me in a heartbeat. I think most men's daughters, if you have a great relationship with them, and Jermaine saying, he says that part, my daughters as well, straight to the point, especially the baby girl. Delivery is everything.
It is.
I promise you, they will give it to me. My sister, same thing. I mean, the women in my life, I don't have any women in my life other than my wife who will kind of temper it down and give it to me real nice and easy. The rest of them, man, they don't have a problem telling you, listen, that food was nasty. You burned that up, blah, blah, blah. They just don't have that cut card like that.
So Michael, you handled it like a champ, like I said. And I really enjoy working with you. I'm like, Fred, please don't let him go off on me. Because I've had people go off on me, Michael.
Really? No.
Ooh, Michael, I've had people when I've had to share my heart, and again, I'm always mindful of not wanting to hurt anybody's feelings and saying it the right way. But some, conversations that are hard need to be had, right? Sometimes. But I've had men, because I work with a lot of men sometimes. And they didn't take it well. So I don't work with them. I don't work with them because I'm like, I got to be able to talk to you.
Yeah.
We got to be able to have a conversation to wherever we're going with something for it to be great. And I would hope that you would do the same for me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, don't let me be doing something out of pocket. Well, not that you were out of pocket, but or something that made you uncomfortable and you not say something. And it wasn't the worst thing, but I just wanted to catch it before when we do have other guests on the show that we have this flow. So,
yeah. No, I got it. I understood it. And Jermaine says it. Well, Key says that daddy-daughter relationship is a different type of thing. It really is. And then Jermaine says, Anika, that was their bruised ego.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. And to your point, I am, for me personally, I'm a very direct person. I've had to learn how to temper what I say to put it through a filter. I'm gonna have to, in my mind, say it a couple of times, rehearse it to make sure that when I say it, it's not said in a way that's going to hurt somebody or tear them down. And I promise you, this is taking a lot of work, because I used to be at a point where I'm like, Anika, I don't care how you take it. I need to tell you how I feel because I need to get this off of me.
Ooh, ain't that
right. And what you do with it, hey, listen, that's your business.
Yeah.
After a point in time of learning, okay, for example, what if another man did that to my daughter? How would I feel? Right. So I look at things in that kind of situation. If somebody did this to my wife, to somebody I care about, how would that make me feel? I know, and I'm gonna tell you this. I know how it feels because I remember a situation where my youngest daughter, came home, and I could tell Anika, I was like, something. She was in high school. I was like, something is wrong, right? Did something happen at school? Like, what was going on? And I asked her, I said, baby, is everything okay? Because normally she's jovial, she's laughing, happy. And this day she wasn't, and I knew something was wrong, right? And I said to her, I was like, baby, what's wrong? She was like, oh, nothing, daddy, everything's okay. I was like, no, it is not. I couldn't get it out of her. So her twin sister told me what was going on. Her teacher had yelled at her in front of the entire class and accused her, I think, of cheating or something like that. And I know my kids, I know they don't, that's not doing it. And I asked my daughter, I said, baby, did this guy yell at you? And she was like, and she started crying. So Anika.
Oh, yeah.
In all of my years of parenting my kids, I have probably yelled at them one time. My daughters are 29 and 31.
Wow.
One time. And I was so upset, Anika, because I could see how my daughter felt. I internalized that pain. And so
wow.
I told her, I said, this is what we're going to do. Tomorrow morning, I'm coming to the school. So my daughter's like, don't, daddy, don't come to the school. I said, baby, don't worry about it. I'm coming to the school. You don't have to worry about it. Give me his number. Anika, it took me about 30 minutes to calm down. When I tell you, I called this teacher, Anika, I said, oh my God. I told him, I said, I don't want to say the other words I said, but I said this. I said, tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, you better be in your classroom to meet me there. I will be there at 8 o'clock. So Anika, I was there at 7:30. Waiting. So my daughter's like, daddy, what are you going to do? I was like, oh, baby, I'm just going to talk to him. It ain't no whole big deal. Everything will be cool. Just go to class. I said, if I tell you this, I promise you this will never happen again. She was like, well, daddy, I'm okay. I said, no. We're going to get it fixed. I didn't let her know I was upset. So she's going to be surprised when she see this, probably, how upset I was. I mean, when I tell you, my wife had to calm me down. She's like, I don't think you should go. I said, I'm going.
Yeah.
I get to the school the next morning. Nika, this guy says hello. I ain't even let him say low. He might have said hell. I ain't let him say low. I had my finger in his face this close. Look, that nigga, I had my finger in his face this close. He had another guy in the classroom, was a young guy who was sitting. I remember he's sitting to the left of me. And he was like, Mr. Johnson, calm down. I said, man, if you get up out that chair, I'm gonna whoop your ass. Do not get up out that chair. Then while I was doing it, I was pointing my finger at this guy. I had it in his face. I said, are you out of your mind? Mm-hmm. You made my daughter cry. I don't even make my daughter cry.
That's right.
Man, I could see him trembling. Anika, I was so upset. I almost grabbed
him. Security.
Yeah. I almost grabbed him by his neck. That's how, and I think the guy, I know he could tell how mad I was because my eyes was bloodshot and I almost choked him. And he was like, but Mr. Johnson, what do you want me to do? He put his hand up, what do you want me to do? What do I do? I said, what do you think you need to do? You think I should apologize? I said, you better start there. Yeah. You better start with an apology. He said, well, what should I say? I said, I'm not going to tell you what to say. I said, but I'm going to tell you this. When my daughter comes home today, if she don't tell me you apologize, you're going to see me tomorrow. But I promise you probably won't see me before you feel me. So the dude was like, okay, I'm going to fix it. My daughter comes home that evening. She says, Daddy, what happened? I said, what do you mean, baby? What do you mean what happened? She says, he stood up in front of the whole class, apologized to me profusely. He went on and on about how it would never happen again. And it was a horrible mistake, blah, 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 blah. And so she said, well, Daddy, did you say something? I said, no, we just had a nice little talk.
Right.
I asked him what happened. He explained to me. I explained my position. I told him how I felt about it. I told him how it made you feel. And he volunteered to apologize.
But you know what, Michael? I think sometimes men don't think that we have protectors. Other men don't think we have protectors. So he probably thought it was probably a single parent situation. And people have a tendency to take advantage of women who don't have a male covering.
Yep.
And he probably thought that. And so we're taking advantage of more. If we're, single women, if you don't have a covering or father or somebody around you, people take advantage of you more. And so that's the other thing. It's just like for women who are out there single, I would hope that they have some man in their life where it's their covering, that, that they feel protected. Women want to feel protected. That's the other thing, Michael. I think this is a great conversation. We just want to feel protected, and protected meaning listen to us, pay attention to us, don't feel, don't say we're overreacting. Sometimes we can, but I think we only get to the point of overreacting when we're not heard and we're not understood. We're misunderstood. That's the worst thing you can do for me, is for somebody to misunderstand me. Well, oh, you upset. I'm like, I'm not upset. I'm just, you raising your voice. I'm not raising my voice. you're being disrespectful. I'm not being, it's just like, I'm just talking.
Yeah.
To be we just want to be understood too. And I think that can be a battle sometimes. So I know we have some comments, Michael.
Yeah, I was going to read it. I was just waiting till you finish.
Uh-huh.
My sister said, my sister did a whole lot of talking that night. I know for sure. You better know she did a lot of talking. And then Marquis said, nice talk. Marquis said, hey, what's up, bro? That's my man, Marquis. And he said, that's correct. I agree. Covering is needed. And he said, also, my sister said, also because her demeanor is quiet. Yeah. So my daughter's demeanor is very quiet. And you're right, Anika. I do know this when at times when people feel like there's no covering, they'll try to take advantage of you. Oh, and you made me realize this in a moment. And I've tried to do this with my kids and especially with my wife to let them know that I'm here. And just any women around me in my life, I've just done this, let them know that I'm here and I will cover you as much as possible. And I've realized, and this is to people who have children in private school, I want to say this. My kids went to PWIs, primarily white institutions, for their entire life, right? Mm-hmm. And I've realized and I noticed something about these PWIs. They will say anything to your children if they do feel like they don't have a parent in a home that's going to challenge them, right? They can just say whatever they want to say, do whatever they want to do. So the parents have to take a very active and protective role in their children, the students' life, because these people will try to tell your kids they aren't this, they aren't that. And let me just real quick, for those of you in the comments who your kids have been in these private schools, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I want you to pay attention to this because I've talked to other parents as well, Anika, who their teachers did this to their kids as well. And I remember one time I had to tell a teacher, I said, that's not my kid, but I promise you this, if I ever hear of you doing that again, I'm going to come up and see you. I don't even care if that parent comes up there because I don't want you thinking you can talk to that child like that. And I just felt like because they were Black going to this white institution, these people just felt like they could do and say and push them towards, they didn't necessarily protect them. Like as a parent and you have a child going to these PWIs, you got to protect your kids because they will have your kids thinking that they're less than. They won't make. I remember this one teacher, and not to go off on a tangent here, but I need to say this because I think it's important. And if you wouldn't mind, please, you guys share this with other people. You guys in the comments, if please share this, especially this part. You can jump straight to this part. I remember one time this teacher told my daughter, she said, you can't do this because she didn't tell her she wasn't smart enough, but I forgot which word she used. And so my oldest daughter was distraught. And I was like, who told you that? Because I don't, in raising my daughters, I told them you can do anything and be anybody you want to be, right?
Oh, yeah.
And she was like, well, Daddy, she told me I couldn't do it because I hadn't did this. I said, she told you what? And I understood this. I'm a consumer. I'm paying for these services now, right? And so I go to the school, and this white lady, Anika, she is now trying to gaslight me, right? I'm sitting here, and I let her talk because I wanted to snatch this. Nika, she tells me your daughter wasn't, she didn't take the prerequisite course and she's too many years behind. She wouldn't understand. The concepts are so challenging and this, that, and the other. And I said, Miss, who are you talking to? And she's like, well, Mr. Johnson, I'm just trying to explain. I said, okay, I've let you talk now. Now you're going to let me talk. I said, this is my daughter. I know she has the aptitude. I know she can do it. I turned to my daughter. I said, do you want to do this? She said, yeah. I said, are you going to put the time, the effort, the energy in doing this? She said, yes, Daddy. I've been trying to tell them that. I said, all right, cool. I said, listen, put my daughter in the class tomorrow. She said, well, Mr. Johnson, it's kind of late. I said, Miss, I think you misunderstood me. That wasn't a question. That was a statement.
That's right.
Put my daughter in the class tomorrow. Right. She was like, well, I said, ma'am, I'm not going to say this again. I'm not asking you because now we get into this place. I'm telling you. My daughter will be in that class. If my daughter doesn't do what she says she could, that's another conversation.
Yeah.
However, she's telling you she can do it and she's going to do it. I said, now I'm going to tell you again. It's the last time I'm going to tell you. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you. This is not up for debate. This is not up for anyone's conversation. If you have a problem with me, we can end this conversation right now. We can go out in the hallway and talk about this some more, not in front of my daughter. But I'm going to tell you right now. As long as I'm paying and she tells me she could do it. Yeah. And I told her, I said, let me tell you another thing. I said, don't you ever tell my daughter she isn't capable of doing it. And I made it a point to have my daughter hear me tell this woman this. I said, don't you ever tell my daughter she isn't capable. That's not your responsibility.
No
I
way.
said, you need to do what you can to encourage her. Maybe she need to go do a couple of other things. There's some steps in between. Something's missing. She might need to take another course. She might need some mentorship. But you don't tell my daughter flat out that she can't do this. Are you crazy? I said, that's my child. I said, the next time you have an issue like this, you come to me. You don't even bring it to her. You tell me. And then I will have the conversation. Next day, Anika, my daughter's in the class. I'm going to sum this up this way. My daughter wound up going into it was an honors class, by the way. My daughter wound up being one of the top kids in the class, wound up going to, and it was a music course, right? My daughter wanted to go to Berklee College of Music, which she did, and she graduated, right? It's one of the toughest schools in the nation to get into, and it's one of the best schools in the world to go to study music. Although she ain't studying music, damn, mad at her a little bit about this, but that's another story. But she gets into the school, and check this out. The lady tells me, well, Mr. Johnson, these kids have been studying music since they was 10, 11, 12. I said, ma'am, I don't care if they were studying when they was in the womb. If my daughter says she wants to do it, she can do it. My daughter is the only, that I know of, is the only person in that school's history to ever get into Berklee College of Music. The only one. When she graduated, they made it a big deal. Do you know this white lady tried to take credit for that? We helped Sierra make sure she could get into, you know, Berklee College of Music, one of the best music schools in the world, definitely in the.
Oh yeah,
it was crazy. I had to tell her though, but I realize now, because this is something I just learned from you, and this is why I'm saying I want people to hear this from me. We as parents have to protect our Black daughters, right? If you have a Black daughter, you have to protect them at all costs, because the world is trying to tear them down. There's another reason why I wanted to do this, not just for Black women, but if you have Black daughters, because I've seen this. If you can tear the Black girl down when she's young, you will have her torn down as a woman. Her confidence is shot to nothing. She'll feel like she can't do this, and this. And if you're a father with daughters, you know who I'm talking about. You know this is a parent. Jermaine said he covers his wife and his daughter love on their other kids as well, where there's no male father. Yep, that's important. That's what I'm talking about. Marquis was saying yes. And then Marquis also said, college teacher did that to my daughter. So Marquis, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's all facts. We as parents, we gotta make sure we take care of our kids. Now, let me say this. This doesn't mean we shouldn't do it for our sons, because we should do it for our sons as well. I had to do this for, again, like I said, another child that wasn't mine, because I just saw a teacher doing it. I was like, oh, hell no. I don't know where his parents are, but because his parents aren't there, I don't want you to think no one cares. So I'm here. I'm not going to allow you to do that to this young man and tear him down. But for young girls, I've just seen this, and I know how this system works against women and against kids. And my sister said, but the lesson she learned from that is to stand up for herself, which she did. And she knows she has a family that supports her wholeheartedly. Yep, she learned all that. She also saw how her father also could be a little bit crazy. John said, my grad schooler did me the same way. Wow. Because I scored low on a test to grade school. Hold on. My grad schooler did me the same way because I scored low on test to grade school. He told me I needed to get a job because I was not smart. See, this is what I'm talking about. I made him sign me up on probation, which he probably did. I proved him wrong, got a 4.0. Thank you, John. That's the type of stuff we got to do. And thank God, you know, he was able to stand up for himself. But what happens when you don't have an advocate, somebody to cover you, somebody to protect you? That's why we must do this, so that we don't have these kinds of situations where people are telling our kids they basically ain't nothing. They're never going to be nothing.
That's why it's so important in our households too, like going back to just allowing us to talk and be heard, listen to understand, as opposed to listening to reply. Because in that situation, your daughter was advocating for herself, but no one was listening to her.
Yep.
She just wanted to be understood. I can do this. And when someone is telling you you can't do something, and they've already kind of made up in their minds who you are and your capability, it's just like, and again, that extends to us as women. We want to be heard, because it still happens. It happens in the workplace. It happens within our homes sometimes. And I think, Michael, when you ask the question, what can you do? again, I'm gonna just go back to it. Just hear us, listen to understand, as opposed to listening to reply. And again, if we're out of pocket and we're not saying things, we're not sending a message properly, we need to know that. So I'm not saying we're always communicating properly, but create spaces where you guys can hear us and then act accordingly.
No, I would agree with you, and I thank you for this conversation because, again, I completely understand. It's funny too. I the more that we talked, you jarred something and made me go back and remember, in my memory. And as I thought about it, I was like, "Oh, this is what it looks like to protect Black women." Yeah. And not just that, but to protect Black girls, right?
Girls,
because we see Black girls going through it as well. And so it's important for us, especially, I say this as a father, to protect your daughter. If you got a daughter, man, like, you got to do this, and you got to do it early, and you got to do it often, because one thing I know, and this is not, because we're talking about girls and women right at this moment. So this is not to say it doesn't apply to boys and men, because yes, it does. Yeah, it's just tonight we're talking about women and girls. And I say that to say that you got to make sure that you don't allow anybody to tear your children down, these girls especially, because once I've seen it so many times, once these young ladies' confidence is torn down, it's hard. It's really difficult to have their confidence reestablished and then go on even beyond that. So you're right, Anika. They're always fighting and they're always looking for space that they don't have because somebody is telling them constantly, you can't, you won't, no, this, that, and other.
I'm down.
Right.
You're doing too much. It's just like,
yes, sir. Now I will agree, and we might have to agree to disagree here. Sometimes it is a little too much.
It is.
That's what you have to. It is. And sometimes women have to pull back and say, am I doing too much? Have I gone overboard? And I do think there need to be some checks and balances there, because a lot of women, like you said, Anika, about men, sometimes it's hard to accept that I'm wrong. Right? Or I just wasn't right in that subject matter. It doesn't make me a failure or I'm crazy. It's just you were wrong in that particular space. Mm-hmm. Sometimes women can be that way, and we need to understand, and as men as well, that I was wrong. And that's something because we've been over for a little bit, but I want you to talk about this. How do you get someone to admit, or not, let me get them, but how do you help someone figure out or determine you were wrong? You need to apologize, and you need to work on understanding you're not always going to be right. Sometimes you're going to be wrong. And when you are wrong, just admit that you're wrong and try to figure out how to do it better.
When you have people who are very prideful, Michael, who are, their life experiences have told them that you really can't, you have really no control over that. I can't imagine being married to someone or having relationship with people that can't receive correction and direction. That would be the most hard. Because I can't stay silent. If something is bothering me and let's say somebody that I love did it, and I know it's not intentional, I have to say something. Now, whether or not they want to receive it or how they receive it, because I'm not always calm, considering your feelings, but that's something you can't control. Either that's in you or not. We got a president who can't receive any correction whatsoever. There's nothing you can do about it. That's an exaggerated example.
That's a good example though, Anika. That's a great example.
This is a good example, but I would hope that people aren't like that, where you are willing to blow up everything just for the sake of you making a point. It's just like, you can't tell me I'm wrong. But you have people out there who you cannot tell them they're wrong. And when you run into people like that, that's a character flaw that you cannot correct. You can pray for them, but it's not something you can correct in a person. I could not be in a relationship with anybody, be it friend, children, spouse. I could not be in a relationship with people that cannot see the wrong that they could possibly be engaging in. So, and to answer your question, you can try, but it's really up to the person to decide that they're going to humble themselves and really listen. Go back to the listening, actively listen to you so that they can understand. But if you're not necessarily listening to understand a person, and you have your own agenda, there's no correcting that unless they want it.
Yeah. And then we're gonna get out of here. My sister says this, went to Greencastle, Indiana. Yep, I remember this from a DC high school. Many people told me I couldn't make it. And said, and let me see, many people told me I couldn't make it in the Midwest. I grew up with a strong family with a support system. And that's really what this boiled down saying. She said also, we all have to understand life is a series of lessons. So rights and wrongs are going to happen. We should learn something new every day. My teacher's a sister, by the way. So this is why this all sounds this way.
Okay, cool.
Yep. But thank you everyone for joining us on tonight. Let me just say this real quick. The show was sponsored by JL Michaels Custom Clothing. Yes, I am the owner of Bespoke Clothing. We make all kinds of custom clothing, suits, hats, shoes, you name it. We do it for men and for women. Nothing too big, nothing too small. It's prom season. You need a prom suit, come on in. You need a prom dress, come on in. You're getting married, got you for the suit or the dress. We can do all that and some. Thank you so much for joining us on tonight. Got to thank my lovely co-host, Mrs. Anika J. Owens. Thank you so much for another great show. This was great. This was great. Just want to leave everybody with one thing, man. We got to protect one another. We got to cover each other, man. We got to make sure that if you see a right or you see a wrong, you need to step in and correct it as best you can, where you can.
Be safe, though. Right,
exactly.
Be safe in doing so.
Exactly. We aren't going to always be able to do everything, but we can do something. Anika, you said this many times. You said women just want to be heard. Let's try to be more active and be an active listening to these women and hear what they have to say and figuring out if there is really something to it, because a lot of times there is something to it. We don't know how much, but we know it's something. And we do realize Black women, Black girls are under attack like nobody's business. And we got to do what we can as a human race, as society, to protect them. We know that they are some of the most precious people on this planet. I'm not just saying it, it's the truth. Black women have saved us many times and time again. Some of them said that God might even be a woman. I'm not even sure about that. That could be the case. And a Black woman at that. Who knows?
Amen to that.
Yeah, it could be. But we just know that we need to protect these people with our whole heart and at all costs. And again, I'm not pandering. This is the truth. Again, having Black women in my family, daughters, I have a granddaughter. My dog is a girl. Nika, my wife, my sister. Black women are important to me. And if they're important to you, we need to do something to protect them.
We appreciate that. We appreciate the love for sure.
Absolutely. We are getting out of here. Nika, I'm going to leave you with the last word, young lady.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you've said it all. Like I said, I think the most important thing and what I take from this is just hear us, on both ends. I mean, like you said, you guys want to be heard too, but in this case, we're talking about women. Just listen to understand us and don't, make up things in terms of creating scenarios. Ask us the question, listen to us to understand us. That's what I would leave you with. Listen to understand us. Got it.
We will be back next week, God willing. And as they say in the country, the creek don't rise. And Anika, I want to throw this topic at you before we jump off. I had and I want to say this to everybody in the comments. Thank you so much for all your comments. We really appreciate it. We always want to know what you're thinking. We're nothing without you guys.
That's right.
I need your opinions, guys. If you would love for us to do something, you want us to cover a show, a topic, please let us know. We will be more than happy to look at it and explore the topic. With that, I had one of my friends who's a frat brother and a client reach out to me, Anika, and he said, Mike, I want you to look at this topic and I want you to talk about it. It's one that doesn't get talked about a lot and it's one that gets overshadowed. He said he would love for me to talk about the lack of intimacy or what the lack of intimacy from a spouse or from a partner, what it does to a man.
Oh, wow. What it does to a woman too?
And that too, but because we're talking about this show will be about men, Anika.
Okay. I give y'all one. Look, I give y'all one. We'll give you one, right, Kiki?
Yeah. So I wanted to throw it at you, Anika, to see if that's something, because Anika and I talk about the topics every week before we do these. So I'm just throwing it out there, and I said, man, I think that would be a great topic. I really would like to bring them on. But I don't know. I'm going to ask him. Or if there's a man out here who wants to volunteer, you don't have to be in a relationship now. Maybe it was a previous relationship you were in, or maybe the relationship you're in right now. and we got to talk about it from a number of different things. And it was basically, he was saying to me how it makes a man feel. Yep. Marquis said, okay, open doors. Hey, bro, you already know around here. You already know how it makes a man feel as a man. And I said, ooh. And let me just say this, by the way, if there's a man out there who would love to come on, not necessarily, you know, my friend who brought the topic up, but if you're a man out there and you'd like to come on to do it, I would love to have you on. So just hit me up. You can just DM me if you want to. You don't necessarily have to hit me up right here in the comments. But if you want to hit me up in the comments right here, that's cool too. Yeah. And I'll talk to you this week sometime at some point so we can sit down and discuss a couple things in that whole 9 yards. And then we'll get out of here. Marquis says, okay, open doors. Mark Stewart. Hey, what's up, my big bro? Mark Stewart said, great topic. Thank you, man. And then my sister said, lastly, Anika, you take part 2 from that show. Yeah.
Take part 2.
Yeah, how a woman feels. So yeah.
Yes, you're right.
So we will do that, and then we'll just talk about.
We need to have Tiki on. Then we need to have your sister on. She could help me out.
I would. Should you come on? Listen, and Marquita, if you want to come on, you already know you come on.
Yeah, everybody. Let it be a party.
Yeah. I'm just in general, right? So, and we always want to be fair. This is a fair and balanced show, so we know that this does not just apply to one, but both. It's just at the moment, this is what we're talking about.
Yes, that's good.
All right, Anika, this was a lovely show. It was a great topic. I'm so glad we covered it. Thank you again to all those who participated on tonight. We love your comments. Thank you for believing us. Do me a favor, please share and let people know. If you have not subscribed yet, please do me a favor. It's very important. Subscribe to the channel, like the channel, share the channel, comment on the channel where you can. We need all that good stuff. It helps the algorithm. It helps our channel grow. It helps our show grow. And more importantly, it helps us grow. We want to make sure that we give you the very best. Anika and I love relationships. Yes, we are advocates of marriage. We are proponents. We love marriage. And more importantly, we encourage healthy relationships. And that's what we're all about.
We're living it, right? It's not perfect, but we're living good relationships, right?
We're trying.
Relationship.
Listen, we're definitely trying.
But I'm not, I couldn't talk about it if I wasn't, walking the walk and talking the talk, right? Not perfect, but it's a good one.
No, not at all. Neither one of us are perfect. We just out here trying to help some folks because we've been a few places. We've had some ups, we've had some downs, we've learned from them. And now we just want to help other people grow and be better and prayerfully not have to walk in those same steps that we walked in. Listen, guys, we appreciate y'all. We are up out of here. Y'all have a wonderful evening.